Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Endgame Titan. We're on Lakeville. I'm on the T95E2, the Tier 8 American Premium medium tank. We're in encounter battle mode. Lakeville is the battlefield where generally the same thing happens irrespective of the mode, that is the bulk of the teams go up the valley. However, this is a game that didn't turn out quite that way. I'm top tier, it's a predominantly Tier 8 game. And I'm going to head in the direction of the town, but I'm not going to rush into the town. Because I've learned my lesson that there's no point in going into the town on your own, particularly in a medium tank. You run into a couple of heavies and you get wiped out. You need to bring your teammates with you, or basically defend where the bulk of your teammates are defending. Now I'm going to skirt along the southern edge of the map as close as I can, keep my turret pointing towards the enemy. Because an early rush by tanks up the lakeside road often occurs, and sometimes a light tank can actually get very, very close without being spotted, in which case it reveals the position to tank destroyers further back, and they can cause devastating amount of harm to tanks trying to cross the open space there towards the town. In this particular case, a considerable amount of enemy tanks have actually come down, and they've all been spotted. So I'm putting rounds into the charioteer as kind of the most dangerous and vulnerable of the enemy tanks. I should have no trouble penetrating a charioteer as long as he's visible. And it's the fully upgraded turret, so it looks like he might be fully upgraded. It's hard to tell whether that's the 20-pounder or the 105mm gun. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have kept the gun pointed at the last known location of the charioteer and attempted to take out that charioteer as quickly as possible, because he's continuing to fire from more or less that location while invisible. However, I switched my fire to the Carnarvon and he's been joined by a Firefly, or a Fury. And the Fury is of course very vulnerable because he's not that difficult to spot, and he really doesn't have the armour for the kind of guns that are firing him. And now we can see the charioteer again, so I'm going to switch back to the charioteer because he's well worth getting rid of. We put a shot in there that hit his tracks, but it didn't do any permanent damage, so he wasn't taken out of the game or immobilized at that point in time. Don't have a clean shot of the Carnarvon. I'm just taking a quick glance around the map to see what else is coming up. And then I switch my attention back to the Carnarvon. As soon as he moves forward, I'm going to take the opportunity to fire him. We get a tracking shot, holds him in position, and that's pretty much the end of him. However, somebody's been watching my tracers, and I've taken a pretty solid hit from a WZ-111 tank destroyer. The enemy are, however, capping the town. They're entering the cap circle, so now it's time to seriously consider relocating towards the town to interfere with the enemy's attempt to capture the flag. Now I'm going in here accompanying some of the heavy tanks, and some of the tank destroyers are moving forward as well. However, the enemy sent a lot more force to the valley than we did, and they managed to take on our tanks in the valley one at a time, and they've now cleared the valley. They've taken out the artillery because they didn't notice the enemy coming. Though they were spotted well in advance, and there's no real reason why they shouldn't have done so. There's an enemy tank, medium tank, that has just rushed through the town. And that was rather foolish of him. He should have stuck with his comrades, because now he's going to get isolated and taken out on his own. Now I've taken a hit here from the fatherland, and I really should have aimed that shot. I should have been a bit more careful. When I came over the ridge and had a clean shot there, I could have done a lot more damage now. I have enough damage there to almost finish the tank. And I don't actually get the chance to inflict the final damage. He's been destroyed before I get to do it. However, he has managed to do quite a bit of damage to me. He got 2 hits in. Effectively, I was just trading shots there. There is, however, a King Dragon in the middle, going up by the lake road, and he's given me his flank so that I can take the opportunity to shoot at him. And I can do this from a position of being unspotted in the town. I'm not actually in the cap circle though, it is allied tanks that are capping out, and the situation is actually not that disparate in terms of tanks. The enemy are slightly ahead, but we're not very badly off. And I'm going to back up now to try and get a better shot. I've switched to high explosives because if he's up there behind the rocks and then bouncing shots of his turret, the explosives will do some damage. And any little bit of damage might kill him at this point in the game. That leaves us kind of even with the advantage with us because we're the ones with tanks currently in the cap circle. So the enemy tanks need to put a bit of pressure on themselves in order to get up and reset the cap so they can carry the game themselves. So we're in a strong position right now, and I'm generally in favour of winning, taking a win when you can. I'm not sure of the health of our remaining tanks. They very likely took damage crossing the southern edge of the map. When all those tanks were lighting them up in the middle, I've got a very severely damaged engine. And I make the mistake of moving. The problem with that is that it revealed my position to a tank destroyer at the edge of the town, and I couldn't get out of the way in time. There was no chance that I'd maneuver out of my way. And by the time I'd realised that I'd been spotted, I was well in his sights. So, but we're still capping. However, the situation is radically altered in the sense that we've got 2 heavy tanks, and they have just a tank destroyer, which is the one that shot me, and the artillery. So one of our heavy tanks, this defender here, decides that he's going to go after that tank destroyer. It was a brave enough move. We were at 80%, and the cap has also gotten reset. Now, I don't know if the tank destroyer may actually have done it, or it may have been the artillery. But either way, the cap has got reset, and we have one tank now. It looks like it was the tank destroyer that did it. So, however, the tank destroyer is on very low health. The defender can afford to take probably another hit and still come out ahead on this fight. The biggest problem is that if artillery is in a position to drop one on the defender, he could change the dynamics of the fight very quickly. He takes out the artillery. I think he took a huge risk by actually coming out here, because he might have given the artillery a clear shot at himself. He was still spotted when he did so. And he obviously prefers to kill all the enemy tanks rather than to win by capping. Now I'm indicating that he should go back into the cap circle. If he goes back into the cap circle, parks up there on the right, in the little corner, the artillery has to come in front of his gun. And by the time the artillery gets close enough to get a shot off, he'll know, he'll have proximity detector of the artillery, he'll know to what direction the artillery is coming from. Now, so far he is staying in the cap circle, so he's not just chasing off wildly after the artillery. And the other problem, of course, with the artillery is that it's a Lorraine 155. It's faster than the Dory, but the artillery has just dropped a shot into the cap circle area at random, hoping to hit the tank, and it's indicated that he's over somewhere around our spawn area. Now, I think the artillery makes a huge misplay here. He drives from his shooting location towards us. That was a big mistake. If he had gone the other way, particularly if he'd gone back down the valley, he would have been undetected by the defender, and the defender could have gone out, patrolled around our spawn area, and not seen or not found any hair in the hide of the Lorraine. And the Lorraine could then have slipped into the cap circle and forced the defender to come onto it on its terms, because it could have tucked into that corner, and it would have had the advantage. It would have multiple advantages over its current location, because to win, the artillery needs to get the defender in front of its gun, and it needs to land that shot solidly, which is quite difficult even with point blank range with artillery. I don't think splash damage would kill the defender at the moment. So it needs to get the defender into a position, and around here the terrain is extremely rough, so if the artillery has to move at all, there's a good chance that it'll miss the tank. And whereas in the town with the flatter ground, the chances of missing from movement of the artillery piece would be a lot less. And the defender here has couple of options. If the artillery isn't facing the right way when he comes around this end, particularly on this side of the hill here, he can go up on top of it. So now the artillery has to watch from a tank above him, and he's going to try and face his gun the right way, bring that gun to bear on a moving tank, and it's a very difficult thing. Whereas if he had been unspotted, he was in the town, in the cap circle, he had a 50-50 chance of getting it right, but I'd never seen the tank coming at him. So it was a bad play on the artillery's part, and a very risky play, I think, on the defender's part as well, because he could have come out there and not found him, in which case it could have been a different game, a different result. So he could have had what was a secure win into a more dicey or dodgier thing. So anyway, we came number 1 by experience. We won the game, I suppose, so let's not criticise him too much. But I do think it was an unnecessary risk. Anyway, I hope you found the game interesting. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already done so, please consider giving the video a like. If you haven't given the channel a subscription, please consider giving the channel a subscription, and I will catch you all again soon. Bye.